1. Comment t'appelles-tu is the correct translation of what is your name in French. Two. The French question word for where is où.
Pourquoi es-tu en retard?
Is the correct way to ask why are you late in French. Four. Est-ce que vous aimez le français is the correct way to ask do you like French. Five. Quand means when in English.
Comment vas-tu?
Is a correct way to ask how are you in French. Seven. All of the above, qui, que, pourquoi, are used to ask for information in French. Eight. Quelle heure est-il is the correct way to ask what time is it in French. Nine. Lequel is the French equivalent of which one. 10. Aimez-vous le français is the correct way to form a yes-no question using inversion in French.
Qui est-ce?
Is the correct translation of who is that in French. Twelve. Pourquoi means why in English. Thirteen. Que fais-tu is the correct way to ask what are you doing in French. Fourteen. Où allons-nous is the correct way to ask where are we going.
Quand arriveras-tu?
Is the correct translation of when will you arrive. Qu'est-ce que c'est is the correct way to ask what is this. The question word qui is used to ask who is coming in French. Lequel préfères-tu is the French equivalent of which one do you prefer.
Quel âge as-tu?
Is the correct way to ask how old are you in French. '20. À quoi penses-tu? Ha is the correct translation of what are you thinking about in French. '21. Combien means how much in English. Two, quel livre veux-tu? Is the correct way to ask which book do you want in 23. Où habites-tu? Is the correct way to ask where do you live? Comment dit-on ça? Is the correct way to ask how do you say this in French? Est-ce que tu comprends? Is the correct way to ask do you understand? Quoi means what in English? "27. Que veux-tu manger?" is the correct way to ask what do you want to eat in French? "8. Que penses-tu?" is the correct way to ask what do you think? The question word quand is used to ask when is the party in French. "30. Combien ça coûte?" is the correct way to ask how much does it cost in French. "Quelle couleur aimez-vous?" is the correct translation of which color do you like in French. "32. Où vas-tu means where are you going in English. Qui est ton ami? Is the correct way to ask who is your friend in French. Quand arrive le train? Is the correct way to ask when does the train arrive. Pourquoi est-il triste? Is the correct way to ask why is he sad in French. Comment ça va? Means how are you in English. "37. De quoi parles-tu? Is the correct way to ask what are you talking about in French. Quand venez-vous? Is the correct way to ask when are you coming in French. "39. Qui est ton professeur? Is the correct way to ask who is your teacher in French. "4. Quelle est ta matière préférée? Is the correct translation of what is your favorite subject in French. est-ce qu'il y a un parc près d'ici? Is the correct way to ask, is there a park nearby in French? Is there a restaurant here in French? Y a-t-il un restaurant ici? Is there a bus stop nearby in French? Y a-t-il une station de bus près d'ici? Is there a problem with the car in French? Y a-t-il un problème avec la voiture? Is there a meeting today in French? Ah, y a-t-il une réunion aujourd'hui? Is there a train at this station in French? B. Y a-t-il un train à cette gare? Is there a cinema in the city in French? Y a-t-il un cinéma dans la ville? Is there a doctor here in French? Y a-t-il un médecin ici? Is there a school in this neighborhood in French? Ah. Y a-t-il une école dans ce quartier?
Y a-t-il un problème?
The correct way to ask, is there a problem in French? Ask, is there a meeting today in French? Ah. Y a-t-il une réunion aujourd'hui?